Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some potential strong champions and also some weak champions coming up for patch 6.18. So I am going to be going over like the bigger changes that are coming to this next patch. There are a few smaller changes, but I feel like it's just kind of a waste of time to go over those because those changes won't really make that champion much weaker or much stronger. So with that being said guys, let's get into the video. So the first change that we will take a look at here is going to be to Ashe. Now Ashe is getting a cooldown increase on her W. Now keep in mind that Ashe also got nerfed last patch as well, so it seems like Riot is really trying to bring down Ashe in power here with these continued nerfs. So this nerf is to her W, it's to the cooldown, and I really don't think that it's going to affect her too much. I still think that Ashe is going to be a very strong pick for this coming patch. I feel like they need to nerf her W, or not her W, her Q somehow. Her Q, I feel like they should either put a cooldown on it or make it deal a little bit less damage, because I feel like her Q and her ultimate are what's making her strong right now and not necessarily her poke damage with her W. The next change here is going to be to Lee Sin's W. Now I feel like this change is mainly focused on competitive play. I think these last few patches have been focused more on competitive play, but Lee Sin really isn't a champion we've seen a whole lot of like in the LCS or in pro play all season long. He was a champion I think last season or a few seasons ago who was highly contested for competitive play, but with like Rek'Sai being a very strong pick for competitive as well as like Gragas and Elise, he's kind of just fallen off a little bit in that scene. So I feel like with these buffs that Lee Sin has been getting these past few patches, he got a buff to his W a few patches ago to where the shield on it was increased, and now he's also getting a buff to his W this patch to where the lifesteal is increased by 5% at rank 1. Now this is actually a pretty solid buff because you don't max W on Lee Sin. I'm pretty sure you max Q first, E second, and then W third. Don't quote me on that, I'm not a Lee Sin main, but I'm pretty sure that's what you do. So having a 5% increase at rank 1 is actually pretty solid. It will allow you to just stay a lot more healthier in the jungle now, and you'll be able to gank more because you won't have to go base and regen your HP as often. Now Lee Sin, he's always going to be a champion who's only strong if you're good on him. He's not a champion that you can just pick up and do really well with in your first few games. So I feel like if you're a good Lee Sin player, then you should probably look to pull him out in this next coming patch here, because I feel like these changes are actually pretty good. Now the next change here we are going to talk about is to Lux. Now Lux's E is actually getting a buff. I feel like Lux is in a pretty good spot right now for the mid lane. She's not overpowered, she's not weak. I think she is pretty strong right now, and with these buffs to her E, I could see her coming back into the meta a little bit for this next patch here. So her E is getting a slow increase on it. It's going from 20% up to 25% at rank 1. But keep in mind that you do max the E out first on Lux, so once you do get it at rank 5, it's going to be a 45% slow now instead of a 36% slow. Now whenever Riot like adds some sort of increased crowd control onto an ability, it is actually a pretty solid buff because crowd control is very important. Like usually the team that does have the most crowd control or the best crowd control is going to be the team to win those team fights come the mid to late game. So adding more crowd control onto Lux or adding better crowd control is definitely going to make her stronger for this coming patch. So if you're a Lux main or you want to play Lux in this next patch here, I would definitely recommend doing it. The next change is going to be to Miss Fortune. Now Miss Fortune, it looks like it's a buff to her passive here. As you can see, it says the tooltip no longer mentions her passive dealing a half damage versus turrets. So they're kind of trying to make Miss Fortune a better tower pushing AD carry now and allow her to take those towers down faster. So with like Jhin getting nerfed last patch, with Ashe getting nerfed as well, and then Sivir getting nerfed, with Miss Fortune getting these buffs this patch, I feel like she is going to be pretty strong for 6.18 now. Ashe is also getting a little nerf this patch, so all of those little nerfs do add up, and with Miss Fortune getting buffed now, I feel like she definitely will be a top tier AD carry in 6.18. The next nerf here is to Talia. Now this might not seem like a huge nerf like on paper, but I feel like this actually might kill Talia for competitive play, maybe even for solo queue. So the reason why Talia is a really strong pick, especially for competitive, is because she can shove the wave in really fast, and then she can look for roam plays like with her ultimate or just by using her passive against the walls. Now they're nerfing her Q to where it no longer deals 50% extra damage to minions. So this is actually a huge nerf to Talia's wave clear and her ability to shove the wave in. I feel like it's just gonna feel really weird to play Talia in this coming patch now, because you're not going to be able to like one-shot that wave with an EQ combo anymore, I don't think. And I feel like you're just not gonna be able to look for those roaming plays as much as you can like on 6.17 right now. So we'll have to wait and see, but I don't think that Talia is going to be very strong for this coming patch. She's also getting a damage nerf to her E, so 2 nerfs to Talia for this coming patch. The trap damage is lowered from 70 at rank 1, or from 80 at rank 1 down to 70, and once it's maxed out, it's 80 down to 180, or it's 180 down to 150 now. So 30 damage, it's really not that much, I guess, but in a team fight, like if you got the target down to a really low amount of HP, then this nerf could end up being the reason to why you don't end up picking up a kill. So any damage nerf, it definitely is going to make the champion weaker, and unless you're a really good Talia player, I'm not sure if she's going to be a very strong pick for this coming patch. So taking a look at the Vladimir changes now that are coming to 6.18, he is getting a nerf to his E as well as to his base health. So his base health is getting reduced. It was 550 in this patch and it's going down to 525, and the cooldown on his E is getting increased. It's going to be now 13 at rank 1 from 9. So they're really trying to shut down Vladimir's pushing power here, or his ability to just harass in the laning phase. For competitive play, he is a very strong pick right now, which is why they are nerfing him. But for solo queue, he actually does have the lowest win rate for any top lane champion right now, which is pretty surprising to be honest, because a lot of people think that Vladimir is a really strong champion, and I do still see him getting banned from time to time. In this coming patch though, I probably would not recommend picking him. I already feel like he is a pretty weak champion right now in 6.17, so with these nerfs for 6.18, he's just going to get weaker. And it kind of sucks honestly, because if we were going into Worlds here, I feel like Vladimir would actually be getting a buff. The only reason he's getting nerfed here is because he's picked a lot in competitive, and because he's a pretty strong pick in competitive play. Next up here, Shen is also getting a nerf, and this is more focused on competitive like the nerf was to Vladimir. So Shen right now for solo queue, a lot of people ask me in my top lane videos like why don't I have Shen on my list, and the main reason is because I feel like he just doesn't provide that pure carry potential that some of the other top laners do. When you're playing Shen, you kind of have to allow your team to carry you instead of you carrying them. Yes, you can get good ultimates off on your team, and yes, you can get good taunts, but if your team doesn't have the damage to follow you up, or your team doesn't have any hard engage, or they don't provide any CC for you, then you're not going to be very strong, and it's going to be hard for you to win as Shen. For example, if your team falls behind, you're not going to be able to carry a game as Shen like 95% of the time. You do kind of have to rely on your team to do well, or you have to be able to get good ultimates down bot lane, get your team fed in order to win the game as him. So his Q is getting a damage nerf, and because Shen really isn't a champion who builds a whole lot of damage, he usually does go full tank, this is definitely going to affect him a little bit. So the percent damage on his Q is getting decreased from 5% at rank 5 down to 4%, and the damage on hit after the Spirit Blade hits is also being lowered. It's going from 7% down to 6%. So for solo queue for this coming patch, I wouldn't really recommend picking up Shen, but for competitive play, I can still see him being a pretty solid pick. And the final change that we will be talking about in this video is going to be to Yasuo and the Frozen Mallet. So Yasuo's ultimate is getting a decent nerf, or it's not really a nerf, it's more of a nerf to tank Yasuo, and I guess it just stays the same for crit Yasuo. So if we take a look to his ultimate here, the secondary effect of increased bonus armor pen now only applies to Yasuo's critical strikes rather than all attacks. So this is kind of trying to bring down that tank Yasuo build and trying to encourage the crit Yasuo build. That is what he should be going, and not for like the Frozen Mallet Trinity Force build that is just super annoying to deal with right now. And to top it off, Frozen Mallet is also getting a nerf. The attack damage is getting lowered on it, and the health is getting increased. So for this coming patch, I feel like Tank Yasuo is definitely going to be a lot weaker, and you're probably going to want to go for crit Yasuo for 6.18. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to kill Tank Yasuo. He is definitely going to be weaker though with this tank build, so you're probably going to be better off going for that crit. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. If you did enjoy, then don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you guys have not already. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.